Mike's on first name.
Hey, my name is James. What's going on?
James, what are we saying?
I have a very simple question for Mike. I don't know if he's heard it, but there's a narrative going around that anything that he says that the Giants are basically catering to and doing whatever he says. And I just got a simple question to see if there's any truth to that whatsoever.
Right to cut him. Pennsylvania, what's up, James?
Hey, Mike, how are you, sir?
What's up?
Wasn't expecting to get on so fast. Surprised me. Listen, there's a narrative going on, Mike. I don't know if you know who Evan Silva is. I know you're not big on fantasy sports and stuff like that, right? But
no, I don't know who he is.
No, he's got over 100,000 followers. He works for Roto World. He's pretty legit. I know you don't care, Mike. Mike, I know you don't care. No, no, I wish I was. To be honest with you, I'm not.
Do you work for him? Do you work for him?
No, I don't work for him, Mike.
Okay, so I just thought maybe you're just trying to promote him.
No, not at all, Mike.
Okay, so what is your point about him?
Well, here's the thing. There was a podcast on around a week and a half ago. And I wanted to know if there was any legitimacy to this. There's a narrative going around, and I know you probably don't know about it because you really don't care. But the thing is there's a lot of people that say that your rants going back a couple of years now, that when you come on and you say something about the Giants, that they just lay down and cater to you and do whatever you say.
So I'm running the Giants now. God,
we're just asking, Mike, because it seems like you are. It seems like you are, Mike.
I know
last
night. Well, let me say this.
Come to get a quarterback.
This was, folks, this is where we come to, okay? Now, I should be very happy to have this power. The narrative last night on the internet was that the Giants got Golden Tate for me because I wanted the Jets to get him to help Donald play and said that I liked him as a free agent, that the Giants signed him for me. Now, that's someone giving me great praise, and I'm telling you, it's baloney, okay? Giants didn't care about me when they signed Golden Tate. I guarantee you. But I've seen that, and somebody sent it to me, and we had a good laugh about it last night, and I don't take that seriously. Maybe somebody in my position should and think the Giants are actually drafting their players for me. Well, listen, I told the Giants to get rid of Beckham years ago, so they waited a long time to please me there. But they pleased me yesterday with Tate. I did see that. And yes, that I got McAdoo fired. I've heard that one a million times, that I'm the one that got McAdoo. And McAdoo fostered that too. But you know what? He angered the owner. I might have greased the skids a little bit. But you know what? It's not because of me. Okay, the Giants are not, and I'll tell you something, I know the Maras very well. They are not making football moves based on whether or not they are trying to please me. I promise you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor. Big fan of this gentleman for a really long time. I can tell you every Friday when I used to go to work, one of the first things I did was pencil in some time to go to Roto World and read this gentleman's matchup article because I am a fantasy football nut. And it is absolutely my pleasure to welcome in the co-founder, along with Adam Leviton, of EstablishTheRun.com. If you are not subscribed to them for fantasy football, you are missing out. The one and only Evan Silva. Evan, how you doing today?
What's up, James? It's good to be with you guys.
Great to have you. I've been a fan for a really long time, but I got to tell you, it was the podcast you did with the Podfather that made me fall in love with you, the Big Blue Bubble Boy, which led to our little back and forth with the Pope, Mike Francesa. And luckily, we've been able to connect and remain friendly, and it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the pod today. How's things going with the family? Hope everybody's healthy throughout this crazy time.
Good. Yeah. Doing all right. Just trying to stay away from other humans.
I was doing that before.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, it's good to finally be able to, sit down and talk some ball with you. The Francesa times were a lot of fun.
Yep.
I hope that, we didn't offend anyone. I don't think that we did, but we kind of touched on some conspiracy theories. I think there was a lot of truth behind it. And I think at the end of the day, the Giants kind of shut him off. They kind of had to, they kind of distanced themselves from Mike Francesa. I don't know if we had any influence over that, but I wouldn't entirely rule it out. It got to the point where he was discussing, the things that we were discussing at certain moments during his show. But, it was a fun time. And I'm still proud of the podcast, and I'm glad that you loved it. And those are some pretty fun memories that we created last year.
Yeah, definitely were. And I got to tell you, I know that we tried to link up beforehand, but I'm honestly thrilled that it took so long, because it seems like coming out of this draft that the Giants now have a clear direction. So I know that you gave them a B in terms of your draft grade. So I wanted to take some time for our fans and get your thoughts on the draft. So I broke it down here. Instead of going pick by pick, the Giants were kind enough to make it easy, and we can group this into positions. So let's start with the offensive line. The Giants in the first round took Anthony Thomas out of Georgia. They took Kurt out of UConn. And then they took Shane Lemieux as well out of Oregon. And I was wondering your thoughts on that group as a collective or individually. Break that down for these Giant fans.
Yeah, so without beginning individually and just looking at it from a big picture standpoint, you know, the Giants spent the last two drafts building up their skill position core with Saquon Barkley in 2018, pretty controversially, but, you know, we all know that he's a good player when he's healthy. And then Daniel Jones and later Darius Slayton last year. And so what they did in this year's draft, it was just a really meat and potatoes draft. I think it was almost complementary in a good way of the last two drafts that they had, because they started off with tackle at 4, and then they took probably the right tackle of the future, again, within the top 100. And I think that and then Shane Lemieux, who looks like he's going to get a shot to compete at center. So I think that the initial plan is going to be Andrew Thomas starts at right tackle. Nate Solder probably moves on in 2021. Andrew Thomas moves over to left tackle in 2021. And in 2021, Matt Peart should be ready to take over on the right side. You know, I think that there would be a scenario where they could maybe even move on from Nate Solder this offseason, except for there's not going to be any offseason workouts to see how ready that Matt Peart and even Andrew Thomas are going to be. So I think that that's going to be, you know, conservatively the plan. So I think that is, again, complementary of what they did in the previous two drafts. You know, I think they've drafted pretty well under Gettleman. Gettleman gets a lot of crap. I've given him a lot of crap. I think that what we kind of came to the conclusion to last year when we were doing our deep dives on the Giants is not necessarily that Dave Gettleman was the biggest problem, is that the ownership kind of had become the biggest problem. But I do think that they have drafted relatively well. And I like this draft. You know, again, like I try to be a tough grader when I do my draft guides or my draft grades, and B is a rock solid grade.
No, and I was happy to see that, because I do know that you are thorough in your work and you're very objective in terms of putting out the grades no matter what the team is. So when I saw a B from you, I was pissed when I saw the Cowboys score, to be honest with you, but I was happy when I saw the Giant grade. Secondly, Giants brought in, you know, over the last couple of years, Gettleman has brought in a lot of secondary help, and I got to tell you, I was surprised how they addressed it in the draft. But if you could bring in good talent, but during a rebuild, you know, my theory is bring as much talent to camp as you can, let them compete, and let it sort itself out. So a couple of questions here regarding the secondary help that the Giants took. Xavier McKinney, the Giants took in the second round, Alabama. They took Darnay Holmes, who Deion Sanders was very high on in the fourth round from UCLA, and then Chris Williamson from Minnesota in the seventh round. Couple of things with those guys, Evan. McKinney, the rumor is that the Giants had a trade on the board for 36, but the grade on McKinney was so high that they decided to take the player. So maybe some thoughts on that, and then the group as a whole or individually, however you want to take it.
Xavier McKinney, I couldn't really ever get a great gauge on exactly where he was going to go. I knew that he was on the Cowboys' radar as early as 17.
Okay.
But he was also a guy that, you know, didn't run well before the combine. He was in like the mid 4.6s, and he was kind of like almost a positionless player in that he's really like a middle of the field safety / linebacker, but he's only, I believe, like 217.
Yeah.
So he's definitely a player with whom his defensive coordinator is probably going to have to be a little bit creative. And I thought that when the Giants drafted him, now Jabril Peppers is a lot better athlete than Xavier McKinney is. but I thought that he was a little bit redundant with Jabril Peppers. But then you look at, they did bring in guys from the Patriots to run their defense, and the Patriots have a track record of really using players in sort of positionless roles. I mean, Pat Chung is really a linebacker. Kyle Van Noy plays all over the defense. Dante Hightower moves around a ton. Their second and third level defenders really are a lot of them are guys that move all over the field. And so Xavier McKinney, I think, can kind of fit in with that philosophy as well as Jabril Peppers. So, I think at first glance I was like, I'm not sure exactly what role he's going to play. Did they just take him because he was the highest player on their board without a plan? But I think at the end of the day, I think when I thought about it a little bit more, I liked it the more I thought about it, and try to envision him playing in the defense. And really, I think at the end of the day, he's going to be a Patrick Chung type player who they're going to match up with tight ends and use as, a box defender, essentially.
Would you have taken the deal if there was in place for 36, or was your thoughts on McKinney that he was too good to pass up there?
I'm sorry, what was the deal?
There was the rumor was they came out and said that there was a deal that they had a deal that they could have taken at 36 to move back. With the specifics of that deal or the team that it was with, how far they would have moved back was not disclosed.
Okay.
But they did come out and say they had a deal that was in place, but the grade on McKinney was a little too high, so they chose not to take the deal. If you're in that situation with your thoughts on McKinney, we can debate what the deal might have been, but just say it's equal to value. Would you have considered that deal, or would you have gone more for the player with the higher grade?
Well, I probably would have traded down, but Dave Gettleman, 8 drafts, 54 players, no trades down. So, he really probably would have had to been blown away, I suppose.
I understand. Any thoughts on Darnay Holmes in the 4th from UCLA, or Williamson from Minnesota in the 7th? Anything that they could bring to the table?
I heard a little bit about Darnay Holmes before the draft, and I never got a chance to watch him. I will. I usually go back and watch the guys that I missed, especially when they're drafted in the 4th round, and I didn't see him before the draft. I just heard good things about him from Bucky Brooks and Daniel Jeremiah and Lance Zierlein as being a player that might go a little bit earlier than expected, and is like a legitimate prospect. Bucky Brooks especially really liked him. So but yeah, these guys on day 3 are really just dart throws. Yeah. We can try to break them down as much as we want, but they're also in a bad position because this year, due to what the coronavirus has done and how it's going to take away off-season workouts and probably abbreviate training camp / preseason, these guys are not going to be able to show what they have, very much. And the Giants are going to have to make difficult decisions with limited data and limited preseason / practice tape on these guys when they cut down to 53. This year the number of small schoolers was way down. The numbers of non-combine invite draftees was way down.
Interesting.
And so, a lot of these guys that went later in the 7th round weren't invited to the combine. They don't even have measurables on these guys. And so, I don't know enough about TJ Brunson and Chris Williamson to really have any kind of a solid take. And the Giants are working on limited information too.
Gotcha. Understand. Yeah. They also took Cam Brown out of Penn State and Carter Coughlin from Minnesota. I sort of like Coughlin, but again, I agree with you. I think that any 7th round pick is going to be a dart throw. But does Cam Brown or Carter Coughlin, and I know they're behind the 8 ball, but do any of them have the physical traits you think that may be able to stick?
Well, I think that I kind of like what they did just from like a positional standpoint. I like what they did is they went hard on the offensive linemen. Early on, they mixed in another one in Shane Lemieux, and then they attacked they took the value pick in Xavier McKinney, and then they attacked the off-ball linebacker position. I think it was Coughlin, who's a decent pass rusher. But I think that he is built like an off-ball linebacker, and that's probably where he's going to end up. I mean, I think these guys are going to play, compete to play on special teams, and hopefully you can get a hit. What do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4 linebackers here.
Yeah.
And, I think that hopefully they can get some production out of one of them defensively. But in all likelihood, I think that they're probably just going to come in and compete to play special teams.
Understood. I'll throw – I know that we were speaking earlier about a little bit of conspiracy theories back in the day, but I got another one for you that I wanted to throw your way in reference to the Giants. A lot of heat on Dave Gettleman in the offseason, and you could honestly see now – I know Giants have let some scouts go over the last couple of days. They brought in a ton of different 15 different, I think, undrafted free agents. They're making some cuts to the roster. Any thought – I know that it was a little weird to a couple of the beat writers that we luckily get to speak to and pick their brains every now and again, that Kevin Abrams was sitting in on not only the draft call with the media, but the free agency call with the media. They found a little weird. And my conspiracy theory is this, Evan. You let me know if I'm absolutely insane, which a lot of Giant fans are telling me I am. I can see with Mara's sentiments dating back to Eli. We all know how he operates, and he has a soft heart for certain people. Is there any credence to possibly not wanting to make Dave Gettleman, say, a scapegoat with the illness and everything that's been going on? He was on the hot seat last year, and maybe ushering Abrams in with Judge into a new direction where Gettleman's working more as an advisor? Or do you honestly feel that Gettleman's the final say right now and he's the one still pulling the punches?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I think that Abrams definitely has a significant voice in, atop the organization. But, I really it's not like last offseason for me where, I was like pouring myself into like figuring out. I mean, I know a lot of the beat writers for the Giants and like I could ask them questions. I really haven't been talking to the beat writers about stuff like, and really trying to dig down deep for any information like last offseason. So I just haven't put time into it like that. But I definitely think that Kevin Abrams has, a significant voice. I don't know if he is starting to become like more powerful or I would say that he probably has, but I still think that Dave Gettleman was the guy pulling the trigger in the draft. I think it was, and I don't think that there was I still think that he is like clearly the man in terms of personnel decisions, but I do think that he is his rope is kind of becoming shorter, and I think that they need to get results or else Mara is going to want to turn the page. I mean, I think that this is sort of like they have to show significant improvement this year, or else I think that we could see another change.
I would agree with you, Evan. I appreciate your thoughts on the Giants. Listen, I want to just pick your brain on a couple of other things. I saw you yesterday on Twitter going back and forth over with some Packer fans and what's going on in Green Bay, the controversy about trading up to get the quarterback in the first round. Is Aaron Rodgers mad? Brett Favre's comments. My take on it is I think Aaron Rodgers is playing in Las Vegas for the Raiders in the next 2 years. I think he's going to be pissed and force his way out. But just your thoughts on their draft and the drama in Green Bay and on Twitter. What happened?
Well, the Packers had a horrible draft, okay? And a lot of things that they did just did not make any sense. First of all, they're working from the foundation that they want to become, like one of the most run-heaviest teams in the NFL. And they're essentially copying what Kyle Shanahan did in San Francisco. Now, it's impossible to copy what Kyle Shanahan did because Kyle Shanahan is a unique sort of play caller. And, people that have tried to copy the Shanahan plan, even going back to his dad, have failed miserably other than Kyle himself. And it kind of reminds you of, all these teams that over the years, and I'm not saying that the Giants are doing this, although they are picking from the Belichick tree, but, teams that have tried to copy what the Patriots have done have failed over and over and over again because they didn't have Bill Belichick. And, to be frank, like, teams don't have the defensive line that San Francisco had last year was just so incredible. Like, all the fourth down stops that they got, all the sacks that they got. I mean, they weren't even that great in run defense. They were just incredibly, incredibly disruptive. And, you know, when you needed an inch, like, they were going to take 3 inches away from you. And, you know, that's a unique thing to try to – I mean, it's impossible to copy. Like, the Packers have 2 good defensive linemen. You know, the 49ers have like 6. So, you know, it's not even like it doesn't make any sense to try to copy that. So what the Packers did is, you know, they overdrafted a running back that has no passing game value. They drafted a freaking H-back in the top 100.
I saw that.
And they used their 4 picks, their top 4 picks in the draft, including the 4th round pick that they sent to go get Jordan Love, which, by the way, they hopped in the first round 3 teams that were not going to draft quarterbacks. You know, it was just like it was an unbelievable move. It made no sense. They used those top 4 picks on a backup quarterback, a backup running back to Aaron Jones, and an H-back who is going to be the backup likely to Jay Sternberger, who they drafted out of Texas A&M, is going to be their starting tight end this year. So they got – out of their first 4 picks, they got 3 backups. And, you know, this is Aaron Rodgers at age 36.
Yeah.
He's got a short window, and they gave him nothing. I mean, they gave him absolutely nothing. And, I mean, and you know, a lot of Packers fans are like, take it personally.
Sassy.
They take it personally when you point out that these were just nonsensical selections. I mean, even in the best case scenario, like, no running back that doesn't even play in the passing game, like A.J. Dillon, is really going to move the needle for your team. In what scenario is an H-back really going to move a rookie H-back really going to move the needle for your team? In what scenario is a quarterback that is absolutely going to be a backup in year 1, and in the best case scenario for him, you know, goes into year 2 with, again, no data, so few camp reps, so few, you know, I mean, no OTA reps, goes into year 2 is just a total mystery. So if I'm Aaron Rodgers, I'm absolutely pissed, and I probably want to get out of there sooner rather than later, because they're not doing anything to help you. And Brett Favre went and talked about this, and he was like, you know, and he had talked to Aaron. He's like one of the only people that have talked to Aaron. Like, Aaron is usually, you know, a guy who's active on social media. He went like 7 days without, you know, or like 8 days without saying anything on social media. I think probably just trying to like gather his thoughts. And I mean, he's going to say the right things probably when he talks to the media, but if I'm him, like, I'd be seething inside. And the Packers fan base don't want there to be any turmoil. They want it so that everything is hunky dory. Oh, of course, you know, Aaron Rodgers isn't upset. You know, why would he be upset? All they're trying to do is plan for the future, except they didn't help Aaron Rodgers during this window where, you know, the back end of his window. I mean, they were 13-3 last year.
They were in the NFC Championship game. I mean,
right.
They're a couple of breaks away from playing in the Super Bowl against Mahomes, and you don't add to that to get Rodgers over the hump or compete to be able to get into to win that one more game to get into the Super Bowl. I was confused by it. That's why I thought it was fascinating. If you had to pick a team that might be interested, you know, just throwing names out. I know I thought the Raiders may be an interesting fit. Where do you think, if you had, you know, gun to your head, what team does Rodgers play for if he's going to force his way out? Where do you think may be a good fit?
I think that the Raiders are as good of a suggestion as anyone. I mean, John Gruden has history with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
You know, and that's where I would begin, is just looking at guys throughout the league who have a history with Aaron Rodgers and John Gruden and a quarterback need. And I think that after this year, Derek Carr's deal is easy to get out of. And, I think that the Raiders are probably going to say they've had enough of Derek Carr after the season because he's not a guy who elevates players around him.
No.
And he
needs everything to be perfect around him. He doesn't seem like the type of guy that's going to put the team on his shoulders and take him to the next level. So
exactly, he's not a guy who plays the game aggressively, and Aaron Rodgers absolutely is with his ability to turn the ball loose downfield. So I think that the Raiders are as good a suggestion as anybody.
Appreciate your take on that. All right, 3 meaningless questions here, just crazy ones. Cobra Kai or Miyagi-Do?
Oh, my God, man. You're going to make me look bad. I don't even know what this is.
Oh, it's Karate Kid.
All right, I haven't seen that in a long time. James,
just say Cobra Kai, man. That's all. You're good.
All right. Cobra Kai.
You got it. Awesome. All right, best Batman ever?
That actually reminds me. I got to show my kid Karate Kid. I've been trying to get her to watch all the
old movies,
all the old great movies. Like Sandlot is her favorite movie. So
Goonies is a great one.
Goonies. I showed her Goonies. Yep. We got to do Karate Kid.
If you could, Karate Kid would be a good one. And then they did a follow-up on YouTube from Johnny's perspective over 2 seasons. It's absolutely hilarious. You'd love it if you were a fan of the old one. Who's the best Batman ever?
Oh, this is a good one. I don't know. I kind of liked Michael Keaton, actually. Yeah, I guess I'll go with him. I mean, that's really when I started to watch Batman was Michael Keaton. So I'll probably go with him.
All right, and if you could be the GM of any team in the league, which I know you do a great job doing if you were, if you could be the GM of any team in the league, what team would that be, and what one giant player would you want to acquire for your roster?
The GM for any team. I don't know. I guess I would probably want to be the GM of a team that's been really bad for a long time, and then you pull them out of the weeds and make them good.
Gotcha.
So, but I don't know. I'm thinking like Jacksonville, but I don't really want to go to Jacksonville. I don't know. Just because I live in Chicago, I guess I'll default to the Bears. Which Giants player would I want?
You got a quarterback need in Chicago. I don't know if you're interested in Danny Jones.
That's true. I mean, I would just want to get rid of every single player on the Bears and start from scratch. So, I would probably take Andrew Thomas. I mean, starting off the franchise with a franchise left tackle, a guy that, you're going to be able to get on a 5-year rookie deal right away. I think that he is, I think he's the best tackle in the draft. I think that Gettleman got this one right. And, I might start off with him. Later down the line, like guys like Darius Slayton, I mean, I think that Darius Slayton has, potentially really, really bright future. So if we were looking like sort of down the roster a little bit.
Gotcha.
He'd be a guy I'd definitely look at, yeah.
Well, as always, man, I appreciate your takes. Always insightful, always objective. Gut feeling real quick before I let you go. We gonna have football this year?
We better, or else I'm not making any money. So we better. I think that we will. I talk to people about this all the time, and smart people that I respect their opinions, and I think that and they all seem very optimistic about it. The NFL really so far is gone off without a hitch, except for the off-season workouts, which I don't think are that big of a deal, except for things like building a rapport with the players and from a teammate standpoint. But the draft happened on time, free agency happened on time. They're about to do the schedule release. I think it's going to happen on May 9th.
Yep.
And they're going to release the schedule and. I think that teams are planning to go ahead with training camp. You hear how Sean Payton talked about it. He said, no, we're not going to do any offseason, none of the voluntary stuff, but you guys be ready. You guys be in shape for training camp because that's what we're going for. And that's going to be, a warm time in America. I mean, the climate at that time is going to be warm. And I think that is going to be good for, the health of the players. I mean, they got to keep the players healthy. Because that's really my greatest fear, more so than the season being canceled. I don't think the season is going to be canceled, but they get in 2 games, someone gets it, and then they got to shut everything down, kind of like what happened with the NBA. That really is a bigger fear for me than them actually canceling the season.
Here's my question, Evan, and this is what I'm having struggling with a little bit, is thinking, all right, well, no matter what sport comes back, guy gets hurt in the middle of the game, have to take him to the hospital. Like, how do you handle that? Like, it just seems like there's so many added factors into bringing them back. I hope you're right. I don't want to miss a season. I want to be able to subscribe to establish the run and win some money. So I hope you're right, man, and I hope they come back. Evan, I got to tell you, man, it's been a absolute pleasure speaking to you. Make sure you